Kiyan.
This is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast where we hate Christmas. Because this week we watched A Christmas Carol.
Written by Steven Moffat.
Directed by Toby Haynes.
And aired on December 25th, 2010. On Christmas. They nailed it. They got the actual date.
It's a Christmas special. What did you
They
expect?
booked the actual date and aired it on that day. No, yeah, I mean, it's pretty normal.
I mean, for Christmas specials, yeah, it's pretty normal.
Yeah.
I just read a rumor that Series 11 is not going to have a Christmas special. It's going to have a New Year's special instead.
That's good, because I actually do hate Christmas.
Yeah, as you said, like right before we started recording this episode.
Yeah.
To which I responded, why is that the least surprising thing I've ever heard? Might be because you've told me that before, but...
Oh.
Like last year Christmas time, I'm pretty sure you said I hate Christmas.
Well, it's not just Christmas. I hate almost all holidays.
What about Halloween?
Yeah, I mean, that one's pretty high up
What
there.
about St. Patrick's Day?
Yeah. Yep.
Valentine's Day?
Yep.
New Year's Day?
Yeah, New Year's is all right to me.
July 4th?
Oh, yeah.
Thanksgiving?
Yeah, so Thanksgiving's like probably my most hated holiday. Because they lie to you about it. I mean, I don't know, like, if people listening to this in the UK, know about this stuff, but like, as a kid, they're like, the story behind Thanksgiving that they tell you in schools is like, yeah, the English people and and Native Americans, came together on this day and had a feast of thanks, and then a couple of years later you find out that's a complete and total lie.
What about Easter?
I've never really celebrated Easter, so... Are we just going to go through, like, all prominent holidays?
I'm out of holidays. The answer was yes, but the answer is also I'm out of holidays. So let's just start getting into the obscure ones, like Talk Like a Pirate Day. What are your feelings on them? Talk Like a Pirate Day.
And, I mean, it sounds all right because nobody does it, right? If everyone did it, it would be really annoying.
Veterans Day.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is like any day that's a day off of like work and school is all right with me. But the other stuff that you typically have to do on these days, like watch Doctor Who, for example, on Christmas.
I mean, you don't have to watch Doctor Who.
No, I do. I'm bound by this podcast to watch it.
No, but I mean, on Christmas,
No, I mean, no.
I mean, well, I was actually checking the release schedule right before this, and I think the next Christmas special we encounter, I think the episode actually goes out like 2 days after Christmas. So that's kind of a weird coincidence, I think. That's all.
Sure.
So, production information. First off, this was produced as part of Series 6 and not as Series 5. So they only started filming it a couple months, I think, after Series 5 finished airing.
Yeah, and I read on the wiki that there's some foreshadowing in this for stuff in Series 6, which is apparently a big spoiler, but I just sort of glossed over it.
Well, there's also like a huge spoiler in the story notes.
Yeah, I read that one too.
So
Ish. It was kind of like the Rory situation where I like kind of got a glimpse of what's going to be happening, but I don't know exactly.
Yeah, well, you'll know soon enough. Soon enough.
I mean, production on this wasn't as interesting as I thought it was going to be. I mean, there was info about it, but not as much as I thought there was going to be.
I thought it was going to be a lot more interesting as well, and it really just boiled down to Steven Moffat was like, hey, we should do a Christmas special because those are like the norm now.
Well, I mean, it was also,
Doctor Who.
As far as I read, it was also Steven Moffat going like, hey, all those things that Russell T and mainly just Russell T incorporated into the show, bringing it back. I want to do all those things, but bigger and better. So this is obviously more Christmassy than most Christmas specials have really been.
I'm pretty sure he described it as like every Christmas movie ever in 1 hour of Doctor Who.
But is it Die Hard?
Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah, is it? I mean,
sure. I don't know. Not really.
I mean, I haven't watched Die Hard, so, I don't know.
I've watched Skyscraper, which is basically just the shitty reboot of Die Hard with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So...
Sounds good.
No, it really wasn't. It really wasn't. So he was like, man, I'm going to adapt a Christmas Carol. Except it's kind of weird because in the story, the doctor's like consciously
Yeah,
aping Christmas Carol, I guess.
it doesn't. I mean, the Ebenezer Scrooge connection is pretty obvious, but there aren't really many. Well, I mean, it's him visiting his past like lives, but like still. Actually, yeah, with the worker who wants something extra on Christmas.
Yeah, it's the guy
Yeah,
wants
right.
something
Yeah,
extra
I can
Christmas.
kind
He's
of
like, no!
I can see it. Yeah.
And the doctor's the ghost of Christmas past. Amy's the ghost of Christmas present. And Kazran's the ghost of Christmas future.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, but of course there's some time travel shenanigans thrown into the mix.
Yeah, and the story also really glosses over the ethical and moral questions raised by the doctor, like
Doing this at all.
meddling with this guy's life for decades.
We'll get into this later, but this isn't like a version of time travel that really has ever been on Doctor Who.
Right.
And really has like the last story set this precedent that time travel isn't like this, and now it is, which is fine. I mean, I guess it's not that big of a deal.
You came to Doctor Who for consistency? Anyway, more about the production. Steven Moffat wrote it, and Toby Haynes was the director for the final production block of Series 5, and he was the most readily available director, so they called him up to do the first production block of Series 6, which included this, and I think Day of the Moon, and
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know
the two-parter
episode
Day of the Moon,
titles
and
next season.
I'm forgetting the name. I think that was included in this for the production block, but I don't quite remember. But yeah, Toby Haynes did the first production block of Series 6 because he was the most readily available director. And that was about it, production-wise.
Yeah, I mean, there was.
I tried to find out why Amy and Rory were wearing those costumes, like if there was an out-of-universe explanation for it, but I didn't find anything.
I think it's just fan servicey type stuff, like Rory in his coolest outfit, the Roman centurion, and then Amy in her strangely most recognizable outfit, which is the police kissogram outfit.
Yeah. I mean, I was just looking to see if there was like an out-of-universe reason, like, oh, they lost all the other costumes or something, but I couldn't find anything, so I guess it was just fan service. Kind of like the whole episode, really, but...
Yeah.
Which I guess is fine for Christmas episodes, since those are supposed to be the fluff pieces that
Yeah,
are
but
inconsequential.
I mean, now that we bring it up, that was one of my, not problems, but just, this was one of the least consequential, seemingly, Christmas episodes. I mean, even frickin' Voyage of the Damned had more to do with, the season at hand than this did. Well, maybe there will be stuff in season 6 that...
I mean, I think this one's intentionally disconnected, because the finale for Series 5 seemed like it really kind of closed the book on Series 5, and then maybe Steven didn't want to start up like the whole overarching plotline for Series 6 too soon. I don't even remember what the overarching... Oh, actually, wait, yeah, I do. It's the fact that someone dies in the first 5 minutes of the first episode.
Wow, that sounds really kind of lame as an overarching thing.
No, actually, it's done pretty well. Or at least when you see it, you'll be like, huh, Doctor Who's never done this like this before.
But just because it's new doesn't mean it's good.
Well, I mean, also consequences
Remember,
can be rewritten.
The
and
older
undone
something is,
if you do it
the
well.
stronger it is. Yeah, I mean, it might sound like I'm joking when I say this, but I agree with that more than ever now. Consequences can be undone as long as it's done correctly.
Yeah, see, there's the key point, as long as it's done correctly.
As long as it's brushed under the rug and hidden enough that you don't know. No,
I feel like there's also another caveat, which is as long as it's not done every single season the exact same way 3 times.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, is that what's going to happen?
In my opinion. Anyway, so the story begins with Amy and Roy on a crashing spaceship, and then someone starts sending a distress signal, and the captain's like, who's sending that distress signal? And then it's coming from the honeymoon suite, and Amy and Roy pop in, and they're like, that's us, we're sending the signal. And they're like, why are you dressed like that? And they're like, oh, don't worry about it. I guess they're doing some bedroom role play.
Yeah, I guess that's what the joke was supposed to be. Not that it was funny at all.
Also, typically when you're having sex, your clothes come off. So,
Well, I mean, no, whatever. I'm not going to comment. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, this scene I think really just goes to show you
what is it showing us?
No, I mean like the idea behind this episode and really this era as a whole, right? Of like, let's crank it up to 11. You think of Voyage of the Damned, this Christmas special about the
Which is
ship.
kind of similar to this one.
Yeah, in a few ways, yeah. And that's about this ship that's going to crash, right? And the whole episode is about that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's all these interesting characters, and they make their way through the ship, and it's good. It's good. This, like, that's a part of the episode. It's a part of the whole. It's just a single component in this story. There's other stuff going on, possibly too much. Possibly a Bob Baker and Dave Martin-esque amount of stuff.
Wasn't Armageddon Factor your favorite episode of Doctor Who, though?
Yeah, it was.
So that seems like a really weird complaint.
I mean, it's not a complaint. It's just...
I don't know. I feel like the plot of this one is
is.
structured differently. The plot of this one is about Kazran, not about the crashing ship. So I feel like the whole plot is centered around Kazran.
Yeah.
Kazran Sardik, who, by the way, is played by Michael Gambon. Who
Yeah, he was a pretty famous actor.
British actor, theater actor.
He was one of the Dumbledores.
He was the second Dumbledore.
You ever watch
Which
those
should be
compilations of
obvious.
like you thought Dumbledore was the same in every movie, but watch these back-to-back clips and you'll notice the differences?
No. Why do those exist?
Because a lot, I mean, I guess I was pretty shocked by them. You can find them on YouTube and stuff, but like you just don't notice the differences because if you watch the Harry Potter movies,
They did it really well, I guess.
I guess. But also, you probably didn't watch them all back to back, or else you just watched like 8 movies back to back and feel sorry for you.
Maybe about a season of like 7.
Oh, right. Yeah, and like I just mentioned before we started recording, I watch a full series of Blake 7 every morning. It's for my morning ritual.
Except it's not really morning when you end. It's like bedtime.
You don't watch 13 hours of Blake 7 every day?
I guess you could
Call
watch
yourself a
them
fan?
all at once on 200% speed.
No, you could just watch them on 4 screens all at once. Every episode of Blake 7 every day.
Yeah, so I'm saying watch them all at the same time.
Yeah.
All 13 of them.
Gotta do that one day.
Yeah, no, you're not.
You could watch all 52 at once. It would only take an hour.
Well, anyway, the Doctor shows up in the TARDIS, and then we get the title sequence, and then we meet Kazran and this poor family who's like, "Please, just let her out for one day." Kazran's like, "No."
Yeah, so this family has had, one of its family members cryogenically frozen as like collateral for, I forget what.
Alone.
Alone, I guess, yeah. And they want to, she loved Christmas, and they want to just, set her free for one day just to enjoy Christmas. Kazran's like, no.
You have to wonder if they make this same plea every single year, if they like just took 20 years off from asking Kazran to let her out, or these are the kind of questions I was wondering throughout the course of this episode.
Yeah, you really gotta question and stick it to this poor family who just wants their, family member out for a day.
I mean, she's not really even part of the
no,
family. She's just the sister of the mom of the family, so...
She's on the fringes,
She's like not part of the nuclear family. She's part of the extended family.
Yeah, you go, Kazran. Keep her away from... She's not really part of this people's inner group.
Except I guess Christmas is about extended family and all that.
Yeah, I mean, no, I'm if you couldn't tell, I'm kidding.
The Doctor shows up and he's like, I'm gonna use this equipment to control the clouds and let the ship land. And Kazran's like, haha, no, it's isomorphic. It only corresponds to me. The Doc's like, no such thing. And then he scans it and is like, just kidding, there is. It's isomorphic. It only responds to you.
Right, Kazran has this giant machine. It looks almost like an organ.
Yeah.
That can control
like an old-timey organ, though, not like a futuristic organ.
Right, it can control the cloud cover. And his father created the machine.
There was also, I think, like there's a voiceover about how poor people want things. And,
There was a voiceover, yeah, I
about
remember.
Christmas and how Santa Claus used to come back on Earth, and then now they call it like the Feast of
Steven, no.
the Feast of Christmas or something, and
Yeah, there's
Santa Claus, they don't consider Santa Claus real or something. Then it's like, poor people just want Santa Claus or something.
Well-
They just want stuff for free, I think he says. Actually,
there's in this voiceover, and I don't remember, was this from Kazran or not? I mean, but I think
so.
there was this one part that talks about how Christmas is like midwinter and how it's like a solstice
Yeah.
holiday, but that's not even
that's
true
not
at all.
true.
Like it's at the beginning of winter.
yeah.
And solstice holidays have like always been celebrated not celebrate or just be together on the longest night of the year, right? As like protection or whatever. Back when
Yeah, I
light
was really
a big problem.
weirded out by that line because I was like, I was doing the math in my head. It's like, Christmas isn't even anywhere close to the middle of winter.
Yeah.
Maybe it is on this planet, but he does explicitly say on Earth Christmas was the middle of winter, so...
I was wondering maybe this has something to do with like the old British calendar system, but like even then it wouldn't, like the date when winter starts like wouldn't. I mean, I don't know, maybe because they used to be like 2.5 months ahead or something like that. I'm not entirely sure.
I don't know. I was just kind of weirded out. I was like, it's not even... Like, that's an easily verifiable or
Yeah.
researchable fact.
Yeah, no, I'm not too sure about like the specifics of this, but I think like sometime in the 1700s, and this was probably before Christmas became like what it is today, but like sometime during March, they were like, it's January now, we're going back.
Oh, boy. So, basically, the doctor asks Kazran to save the ship, and, well, also the president calls. Kazran's like, yep, ship's gonna crash. Doesn't matter. Everyone's gonna die. Puts the phone down. The doctor's like, gotta save the ship. And Kazran's like, nope, no, I don't. I'm just gonna let him die. It's like, you go, Kazran. You stand up for what you believe in. The doctor's
No.
the doctor's like, you can't do that. 4,000 people are gonna die. And he's like, yeah, so? So what? And the doctor doesn't really have a counter to this except, but they're people and they're going to die. Kazran's like, yeah, people die every day. And the doctor's like, Then Kazran like also tells the president like there's a quota of how many people are allowed to be on the planet and the ship's just going to throw that all out of whack, so you may as well just let them all die too. Then the doctor kind of
Right.
just says this thing to Kazran. He's like, just remember anything that happens tonight you brought on yourself. Kazran's like, ha, whatever.
Sure, I'm not going to be traumatized by you and your actions soon.
Yeah, I mean, the first time I watched this, I sat there at the end of the episode, I was like, man, I don't really think that was okay, what the doctor did. Like, this episode, I'm going to talk about this later, raises, like, a lot of moral and ethical questions and then, like, doesn't really do anything with them.
And, I mean, yeah, that's a good point. The doctor is always... And I'm not even remembering specific stories right now, but I'm sure as soon as we stop recording, I will. Like, the doctor is, if memory serves, always been like, if one person, if we have to save all these people, yet one person has to suffer for it, it's not worth it.
Yeah. Not
And
only
he, like,
that,
inflicts this pain and suffering on Kazran.
well, so there's a scene here that I'm pretty sure Steven Moffat was just patting himself on the back for because it's straight out of Sherlock.
Masturbating over, I think is the term you're looking for.
I was trying to dodge that term, which is why I was looking for an alternate form. But I mean, yes, because the doctor sees the painting on the wall and
deduces this thing that you'd never like be able to
that,
figure
like,
out.
Kazran doesn't want to be like his dad because Kazran didn't hit this kid, and the doctor's like, well, why didn't you hit the kid? And then he's like, oh, all the chairs are facing away from this painting, and there's
It
a
all
Christmas
makes sense
tree
now.
in the painting, but there's no Christmas tree in the house. And he's like, so you must hate your dad. And it's like, okay, Steven.
I mean, it's almost a parody of like that Sherlock type thing,
I mean, sort of, but it's
also Steven Moffat doing it, so you gotta wonder.
It's done the exact same way it is like in Sherlock, so it's like,
So one of the things I dislike, one of the many things I dislike about Sherlock.
I mean, that's one of the best parts of Sherlock to me is those scenes because the plot is like pretty thin in those episodes. So it's like pretty much always carried by like the deductions and the actual detective work.
Well,
But-
as like the Sherlock Holmes franchise has always been.
Yeah.
Actually, that's not true because like
Well,
the first two like books were novels that were very much not that.
yeah. I was gonna say like some of the longer stories are not
Yeah,
that.
when you think about it, that series actually took a weird turn when it went from the novels to the short stories. It like took a very different approach,
Everybody remembers it more for the short stories than the novels, though.
right? And everyone remembers it for a select few short stories because some of them weren't that good.
Quite a few of them weren't that good. A lot of the ones written after Sherlock died weren't that great, and some of them are like direct copies of stories from before Sherlock died too, just with like a couple details changed.
Right, and
And
before we really get into what the Doctor is about to do here, I really like the sort of steampunk vibe of this. It was really cool.
yeah, I think the big machine kind of epitomizes this because it doesn't look like a futuristic techno machine like you'd kind of expect, I guess.
No, no, it looks very Victorian, very steam powered.
Yeah, there's a lot of like analog dials and knobs, and the screen's like kind of low res and steampunky, and I mean the whole kind of building that Kazran's in is very Victorian, and I mean that's probably because like this is a Christmas
Right,
Carol,
right.
and Christmas Carol was that Victorian era? Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
I mean, the Victorian era was like, what, 60, 70 years or something like that. And Dickens was writing in like, I think the 1830s, 40s,
Yeah,
and,
so
50s, I guess.
pretty sure
So
that was
yeah,
Victorian.
yeah, it
Right?
was
It
early
wasn't
Victorian.
Edwardian, was it?
No, Edwardian was like 2 years and like 19. Edwardian was weird. It was like 1907 to 1912 or something like that. I don't know.
We'll just say it was Victorian. Anyway, the Doctor goes outside and he hears like a Christmas Carol playing, and he says to Amy, "It's a Christmas Carol." Because Amy's like, "What's that in the background?" It's like, "It's Christmas Carol." And he's like,
It's like, I can't hear it over the explosions and screams on this ship that's about to crash.
He's like, Christmas Carol. Got it. So he like, I don't know. It's implied that he like hacks into Kazran's system and
Yeah, I
recovers
didn't
this
get
video
this.
that like Kazran deleted at some point. Because Kazran's
Well,
like, "How'd you get this?" And the Doctor's like, "Oh, I had to recover it from the deleted
the-
data using like quantum entanglement or whatever."
Yeah, I mean, the way we're like introduced to this scene though is you see Kazran and he's like asleep in his office, and then this video projection just starts playing.
So the Doctor like decides to directly copy a Christmas Carol, I guess. Because I guess he's like, if I can convince Kazran to save these people, that'll be a good thing. Again, raising a bunch of moral and ethical questions that like aren't really like nothing really happens with them.
Right, and I mean, like at this point, I don't really fault him for what happens because there's no way he could have known. But like at the end, he doesn't try to rectify any of this.
Also, basically, what happens is
The Doctor goes back into the past, and as Kazran's watching the video of himself that he recorded as a child,
yeah,
he sees the Doctor like climb in his window.
yeah. And he's like, "No, that's not what happened." And the Doctor like turns to the camera and he's like, "Better pay attention, Kazran. Things are about to change."
Things are about to change for you, for the worse.
Like Back to the Future. You're a slacker. No McFly has ever amounted to anything. Well, history's gonna change.
There is a direct line later in this episode from Amy. It's like, history can change.
Yeah, history can be rewritten, I think she
Rewritten,
says, because
right.
I wrote it down in my notes. I wrote a couple of other things down in my notes, because as soon as the Doctor shows up to young Kazran, he pulls out the psychic paper and he's like, "Look, I'm a mature and responsible adult." And Kazran's like, "It's just a bunch of squiggly lines." He's like, "Damn, I shorted the psychic paper. Finally, a lie too big."
Yeah, that was pretty funny, actually. We didn't mention the part where, his dad sort of catches him liking Christmas, I guess.
Well, the fish,
And,
liking fish.
Yeah, liking fish.
Which, by the way, there are fish in the clouds. The Doctor's
this
like
was cool.
weirded out by that, because he's like, "Why are there fish in the clouds?"
Yeah, they sort of swim through the fog or whatever. And this is cool. I really like how this is done.
Yeah, no, this is a pretty interesting idea, I think, and pretty unique. There's actually some fish down on the street when the Doctor's listening to the Christmas Carol, like small fish, and he's like, "These are really cool." Kazran wants to see the fish, so
And I mean, his whole backstory is questionable at best. He was traumatized over this. Well, I mean, when you get to the physical abuse, yeah, it makes more sense. But like, he wanted to attend this field trip to see the fish or something like that, and his
Well, it
dad
was like-
never let him.
they went on a field trip somewhere that like wasn't fish related, and then like a whole bunch of fish came down. And Kazran's like, "Well, this is everything everybody talks about, because I wasn't on that field trip, and like everybody saw all these fish, and they all have a story except me because I wasn't there because my dad wouldn't let me go on this field trip.
And yeah, that in itself, maybe maybe this wouldn't have become like the defining trauma in Kazran's life if his father didn't like beat him for it,
Yeah, because his dad comes in when he's talking about the fish, and he's like, he hits him.
Yeah, and you kind of, I got the impression at least that like, if this didn't happen, then he wouldn't have like obsessed over the fish, wouldn't have really even cared maybe a few years down the line, and wouldn't have become the awful person he turned out to be.
Yeah, pretty much. So the doctor tries to bait a fish with like a sonic screwdriver, and so they're sitting in the closet, I guess, like just waiting for the sonic to attract a fish, and then the doctor feels a tug on the line. He's also recording this for future Kazran to watch.
Right.
I guess
future Kazran is watching this play out, and his memories are changing as he watches it.
Right.
Which Doctor Who's version of time travel has always been like things have already changed.
Yeah, like you wouldn't know that they changed, basically.
Right.
By the end of this, Kazran's like well aware of everything that's changed, which is kind of weird.
I mean, we see like the direct opposite of this in the Pandorica opens and the Big Bang with the drink and the Doctor falling down the stairs and stuff like that.
Yeah. Because they see it and then they're like, yeah, that's already happened. Like, that's already how...
And River Song's entire character as well, I guess.
Yeah, because she tells the Doctor, like, I'll see you when the Pandorica opens, which means, like, all of that Pandorica stuff already happened for her. So, like...
But this is alright. It's a Christmas special. It's easier to just shove in a box and forget about.
Much the same way a lot of people shove, I'm half human on my mother's side in a box and forget about it because it was in the TV movie. And
yeah. I thought you were going to go for, like, much like how people shove their trauma in a box, like Kazran, and
much how I shove my daily trauma into a box and shove it into a little corner and pretend it never happened.
You have daily trauma?
Moving swiftly along, the Doctor goes out to investigate the fish, and he's like, oh, cool, little fish. And then a massive shark eats the little fish. Dog's like, ah!
I read that Steven Moffat was inspired by a childhood fear that he had of sharks.
I read that too. Apparently Jaws was a rather defining movie for Steven.
It was his trauma, you could say.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can really call a movie trauma, but...
It could be.
Yeah, it could be, I guess.
I mean, if I show my 3-year-old kid Human Centipede, pretty sure they'll be traumatized. Not that I'm going to, like, try it to find out. The Doctor then tells Kazran to stay in the closet because there's a big shark outside. And Kazran... Well, he stays in the closet, and then the Doctor runs in, and Kazran, future Kazran's like, no, don't do it, Doctor, don't do it. And the Doctor makes it back into the closet safe and sound, but then the shark kind of crashes through the doorway, and they're like, oh no, we're gonna die. But the Doctor's like, well, I just gotta get my sonic out, and then like I can send like a what does he call it? Like a psychic feedback pulse into the shark, which will like knock it out.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact phrase. This was actually this part where I started not zoning out, but just not enjoying the route the episode took. I thought it was going to go a very different direction than where it actually went.
Well, so there's also a moment here where Kazran's talking with the Doctor, and he's like, why do you wear a bow tie? And he's like, oh, bow ties are cool. Like, I wear them, and I don't care. And then we cut to the future Kazran, and we see that, like, future Kazran's wearing a bow tie now, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I didn't notice that.
Because he kind of, like, touches his tie.
Yeah. I'm sure there are a lot of little touches like that I just didn't notice, because...
Well, I mean, the big one is the painting changing from a painting of his dad to a painting of Abigail back to a painting of his dad. Anyway, the shark is dying, and the Doctor's like, oops. Kazran's like, I didn't want to kill it. And the Doctor's like, well, I've got no way to get it into the sky because I have no way to like freeze it, and he'll just like die as soon as I take him up there. Then Kazran's like, oh, I know how we can freeze it. And they go down, and apparently they have like a whole vault full of frozen people. I guess Kazran's dad, I guess, is just freezing the population of this planet and pay off their loans, except like people are a finite resource. So he's going to run out of people at some point. Anyway, Kazran's like, we should unfreeze this one. And the doctor's like, but why? He's like, because she can sing and she likes the fish and stuff. Actually, there's another moment where they don't know the code to get into the vault. And then a future Kazran's like yelling it.
Oh, yeah.
And then the doctor like goes forward in time and he's like, thanks, future Kazran. And then he goes back in time and he's like, Kazran, I've got the code. I don't remember what the code was now. Some nonsense.
It was just like a 5-digit number or something like that, so no real reason to remember.
And
it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No.
They go to the kind of like, they're like sort of like little coffin things.
Right, but they continue on this steampunk sort of vibe, so they all look very in character for the story, which is good.
They look old and steel and
I mean, I feel like that's what I'm going to be talking most about for the rest of the episode, because I pretty much didn't like or / didn't care about what was going on screen.
I mean, there's also this weird Star Wars-esque relationship between Abigail and Kazran here.
Why do you say it's Star Wars-esque?
Well, because Kazran starts as a little boy.
Yeah, the prequels, all right.
Yeah, prequels.
I thought you were going to go for, like, she's a twist sibling of Kazran's.
No, I'm talking about the prequels.
Yeah.
There's, in fact, even a line, I wrote it down. She says to Kazran, when he comes back as a teenager, she says...
Do you like sand? No, I'm just
kidding. She says, "My, you've grown," which is basically exactly what Padme says to Anakin in episode 2, so...
Yeah, yep.
Just wanted to bring that up for no good reason, really. Except that I was like kind of really off-put by this romance.
Well, I mean, she's frozen like in time. She doesn't age in the
which makes it weirder,
chamber.
Honestly. Because
so she's far older, in the first place.
She's far older to start with, but then when she gets unfrozen at the end, Kazran's like twice her age. So
right, but also you have to question like how long has she already been in there when they unfreeze her? And I don't know if we have an answer to that.
I think we do have an answer to that. Or not more. Well, actually, no. We don't have much of an answer to it, but I mean, she's not much older than her sister. And
her sister's pretty
young, but married, so...
But still, I mean, when they go back to the family, her sister is noticeably older than her.
Mm-hmm.
So, enough time must have passed that she's the older sister, right?
That's what I got out of it.
So, yeah.
Anyway, they, like, take her out, and she sues
She sues Kazran. I mean, Kazran's Sardik. I didn't mention his last name.
Kazran Sardik.
Yeah.
Well, she sues the shark, and they put the shark in her, like, cryo vault and then take it back up into the clouds, and then as they're putting her away, young Kazran's like, we'll be back next Christmas, and the doctor's like, no, what? And then the door closes. He's like, damn it, Kazran. This is a pretty cool scene where the door immediately opens, and, like, the doctor and Kazran have, like, changed a year.
Yeah, but you also have to, this is another thing where you, like, question the morality of this, is, like, because you see it from her perspective. You see, like, like you said, the door closing, then it immediately opens, and the doctor and Kazran are there a year later for them. Which it's also moments later for the doctor, because the doctor's just going from Christmas to Christmas.
And then Abigail's like, Doctor!
Nissa! Kazran!
I knew that was coming. Well, because she learns that the doctor is a doctor because he's like, I'm a doctor. And she's like, wow, what a twist. Because she's like, oh, I need a doctor. And the doctor's like, well, what does this dial on the front of the thing mean? And she's about to explain it, but then they run out of time and they have to go back down to the planet. And, a lot of problems in this episode would have been solved if Abigail had actually just spit out what the dial means right now. But she doesn't, so...
And she's having too good a time later to bring it up.
Yeah, to ever bring it up again.
So they go from Christmas to Christmas, just having a great time.
Yeah, so young Kazran gets older, and then eventually there's this one Christmas where instead of saying, Doctor, she goes, ooh, Kazran, like in a sultry, like, well, you're hot now kind of way.
This is interesting because you do see every single year, and there's 2 actors for Kazran, right? So it's not like this progression. It's just 1 minute he's like this 12-year-old boy, and I guess puberty hit him real hard.
Maybe puberty just hits really hard on this planet.
Well, this was supposed to be, and here's a question that I had, and this isn't like a complaint or anything, and I actually think this is kind of cool. This is supposed to be Earth, right?
No, this is another planet. Like Kazran
Or like a
says,
future. I mean, not or like
it's like a
this
human
is,
colony.
Yeah, this is humans. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
That's what I meant when I said, "Is this Earth?"
Yeah, the humans. This is
Yeah.
like a human colony
Yeah.
somewhere. So, this is a question that Doctor Who's never really gone into. Does puberty affect you differently on different planets? I don't know, but apparently on this planet, puberty hits you like a freaking 10-ton
bricks.
truck. This is when the romance gets a little weird because then, like, you know, at the end of this night, Abigail and Kazran, like, make out, which is just kind of weird for Abigail when you think about it because she's known Kazran since he was, like, pretty much 7 years old.
But also for a couple hours, it was like only a few hours ago for her.
Well, it's been
she's just
it's
like,
been
this is
like 5 days basically. I
Yeah.
think because it turns out the dial on the front is how many days she had left to live,
right.
which really makes this actually the most valuable technology on the planet. That when you like freeze yourself, it tells you how many days you have left to live. Because like, if I'm just a healthy man and you just shove me in there and it tells me I've got like 3,000 days left to live, I'd be like, sick. Thanks for telling me exactly what day I'm going to die on. We'll never really go into that either. The first time I watched this, I assumed that dial was like the number of times they could open and close the cryo chamber.
Which in some way it kind of is. I mean,
It kind of is.
The way they play it out, you know.
But then, like, later on, like, Kazran explicitly says, like, when we put her in, she only had, 9 days to live her.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not that, but the way they unfreeze her, which is like, we're going to unfreeze you for like a day or just a night.
Well, a night, which is, I guess, why they actually get, like, 16 Christmases, Christmas Eves out of this.
Yeah.
They go to Hollywood
like,
at one
what
point.
did it have at the beginning? Like 9, 8, something like that?
I can't remember if it was 9 or 8. I remember seeing the number 8 explicitly, but I don't remember if it started at 9 or if it started at 8. They go to Hollywood the one year, and they just kind of have a makeout session at this Hollywood party, and the doctor's like, we got to go right now. And they're like, 9. And the doctor's like, I'm going to get married to Marilyn Monroe if we don't leave. And they're like busy kissing. He's like, you know what? Whatever. The doctor's like really confused. He's like, how do you do that? Do you like breathe through your nose while you're kissing or something? Which is weird because the doctor's lived for 900 years, and also like he made out with Rose that one time, so.
Yeah, when was that?
Not making out with Rose, sorry. He kissed Rose, but the doctor has had kids, so the doctor should know how this works.
Another one of those strange 11th Doctor moments where he seems not to know things that he should, but hey.
Yeah.
But this is when they figure out what's going on.
Well, when Kazran
figures out what's going on.
And then he doesn't tell the doctor either. A lot of grief could have been saved here by this. They don't even tell us what like medical condition Abigail has that makes her die in 8 days. Maybe it's that disease that like
that kills you in like 10 minutes.
Here's a production thing that I forgot to mention is that the lady who plays Abigail, I'm gonna look up her name right now because I want to mention it. Katherine Jenkins she was like a singer, and she was originally just supposed to sing the song that Abigail sings, and they were going to have someone else play Abigail. But then when she came in to like do the song, or when they got her in to like talk with her, she was like so enthusiastic they like actually just cast her as Abigail, which is like a huge deal because this is like her first acting role ever.
Huh. That's interesting. I mean, she does a good job. It's
yeah, she does
really good, especially for a first role. I mean, think back to Voyage of the Damned. They had Kylie Minogue.
Right. Yeah, Minnow.
Mm-hmm.
Minnow. Minnow, like the fish, Minnow.
Yeah. On that, so there's sort of a precedent for this, I guess. Which is interesting. I mean, if they keep getting like these singers / pop star, they had Billie Piper and she was, really great acting wise. Mm-hmm. If they keep getting these like singers / musicians / pop stars, eventually there's going to be one who just can't do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Apparently they wanted to get David Bowie in the classic show. They wanted to get David Bowie, and I think Russell T also said that he wanted to get David Bowie on in some capacity. So.
Huh.
But he passed away before that happened.
Yeah. I didn't know whether that came to pass. I guess it didn't.
No.
Because I don't know what's coming up.
No, it didn't.
But no, I guess it didn't. I'm sure I would have, seen it everywhere if it had happened.
Yeah,
So.
absolutely. There is a comic book character based on David Bowie who travels with the 11th Doctor, weirdly enough. Anyway, Kazran's just like, look, we can't do this anymore. I'm too old for this. And the Doctor's like, wow, that's kind of weird, Kazran. You're kind of being a dick. And Kazran's like, yeah, well, I'm too old for this. And he just storms out. And the Doctor's like, damn, well, I tried.
He decides that he's going to go work for his father, which is what the Doctor was trying to prevent. The Doctor was trying to, prevent Kazran from taking over this machine and using it for purposes that result in people's deaths.
Right. So the Doctor's like, well, that's... Damn. He goes back to the present. Kazran's been like crying over all these photos he kept of Abigail.
Right.
There was a moment where the painting changed from a painting of his dad to a painting of Abigail. But then at the end of the sequence, when he storms off to go work for his dad, Kazran looks back and the painting's changed back to a picture of his dad. Which to me implies that the Doctor went too far with this whole Christmas thing. And if he just stepped off one Christmas early, he would have been okay. But...
I guess, but I mean, this is supposed to be a moment, right, of like, is this one of those moments that can't be changed?
Yeah.
Well, Series 5 brings up the fixed points in time a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And, you got to think, like, is Kazran doing this inevitable?
Yeah. No, yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, that's...
And just considering it's a Christmas episode and considering that it's freaking Doctor Who of all things, you already know, like, no, it's not. They're going to end with, like, them getting saved.
Yeah, it's going to end on a happy note. So, then we get the Ghost of Christmas Present, which is Amy.
You don't really... I mean, you think of, like, something like Waters of Mars and, like...
yeah, that didn't really end on that good note,
yeah, so I guess he doesn't have to be that way, I guess. I don't know.
Well, so then we get the Ghost of Christmas Present, which is Amy, and she shows...
The hologram of Christmas Present?
Well, I mean, a hologram is really just a ghost when you think about it. And she takes Kazran down to the vault, and all the passengers on the ship are singing, and Kazran's like, why are they singing? And then Amy, like, takes him onto the ship, and the captain's like, we haven't told them that it's not working, and Kazran's like, what? And they're like, oh, they're singing because we figured if we could set up a resonance in the ice crystals like Abigail does, then we could calm the storm so we could land, but it's not working and we haven't told them yet. I think they're singing Silent Night.
Yeah, it was definitely, I don't remember what it was. It definitely wasn't like an obnoxious Christmas song, Jingle Bells or something like that.
Can you imagine?
Like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Because if it was, I would have noticed it. I would have come out of my zoned out state and noticed it.
Maybe they should have played one of those obnoxious ones then. Anyway, Kazran's
like Last Christmas, the worst Christmas song of all time.
I think you mean best. So they're like, damn. Amy's like, you listen to this, Doctor? And he's like, yeah, that's okay. I had a plan. They take Kazran back, and then Kazran's like, so you've seen the past and the present, time to see the future. And Kazran's like, fine, show me the future. What, am I old and alone? Everybody is when they die.
He's like, and he's really vehement about it too. He's like, it's not going to change anything, Doctor. You showing me this isn't going to change anything. I just don't care. Yeah. I just don't care.
He's like, unlike you, Doctor, I just don't care. And I never will. And the Doctor's like, see, I don't believe that. Kazran's like, 4,000 people? I'm gonna let him die.
Looks to the pictures of Abigail in a corner. I actually can whistle, by the way. That was on purpose.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know that.
Yeah, I just wanted to let it be known.
And I think this is when the Doctor figures out from Kazran talking to the hologram, the Amy hologram, that Abigail only had 8 days to live, and she's only got 1 day left. And
right.
That's why Kazran's so grumpy, because he's like, he doesn't know. He's like, how do you choose what day?
And yeah, and even Kazran brings that up. He sort of faces the Doctor, or maybe this was with Amy. He sort of confronts whoever it was, I guess, and he's like, how can I make this choice of like letting her out and having her die?
Yeah. And then anyway, he's like, show me the future, Doctor. And he's like, I already am. He's like, so Kazran. This
was a really cool moment. I have to admit, like, as much as I sort of disliked this episode, like, this was really cool.
Yeah, and old Kazran turns around and young 7-year-old Kazran's standing there
Right, and he sort of sees his father in who he turns out to
in
be. He's like,
Kazran, yeah.
Dad.
And he goes to slap him, and then he's like, "No, forgive me," and they like hug, and then I guess this changes Kazran's mind. He decides to help. Doesn't matter though, because it turns out all the doctors meddling just made it all worse because now the machine doesn't recognize Kazran.
Right.
Like, doesn't recognize his brainwave patterns because, like, apparently his dad would never let someone like that run the machine. I was immediately struck by the obvious question, why not just have the kid version of Kazran run the machine? Kid version
No,
of
I didn't even think of
Kazran
that.
hasn't gone through all these experiences that changed him like the old Kazran has.
No, but I mean, I think that's I think it's less like he's gone through all these experiences and he's changed, but like his demeanor is so totally changed from like the bitter Kazran that we get in the beginning of the story, who the machine was programmed to, that like now neither of them is able to do this, right? Because they're both not bitter anymore, or one's not bitter anymore. One never was to begin with, the younger one.
Right. I agree. Anyway, they decide to take out Abigail because Kazran's like, "Look, I saved the sonic screwdriver," and the doctor's like, "Oh."
Yeah, there's this stuff about like because one of the sonic screwdrivers is there, and the other half is somewhere. I don't even remember exactly what it is.
In the
Again, I was
shark.
so disinvested in like what was even going on.
The other half is in the shark, and the doctor figures if they can set up a resonance between the two halves of the sonic screwdriver, then they can like beam something into the clouds to calm them down. So he tells Kazran they're gonna have to wake up Abigail, and he does it. I mean, he's upset about it, but he does it.
Right.
And Abigail sings to the clouds, and they calm down, and the ship lands. And
Yeah. Was this a Christmas song? 'Cause I didn't recognize
it's a
this
song they wrote for this episode.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I was kind of thinking.
And then Kazran and Abigail go flying into the sky
The
on
sun
their
knows.
shark-carried
Sleigh.
sleigh, which is what they did on the second Christmas. The first one they saved the shark. On the second one, they used the shark to power a sleigh to travel through the clouds.
Right.
And then it pretty much ends.
Yeah.
On-
The
on that
doctor,
note-
Dr. Amy and Rory reconvene. And they go off and do their own thing. Amy and Rory had an extremely small part to play in this.
Yeah, I think that was on purpose, though. I think this story was more about the doctor meddling
Yeah, I mean,
with
no,
Kazran.
I'm okay with it. But
That was the one thing I actually really wanted to talk about, is that there's a lot of moral and ethical questions about the doctor meddling with this guy's life just to save this spaceship. Like, he basically entirely changes this person. And, he brings this up at the end. Like, the machine doesn't recognize Kazran's new brain wave patterns. And
I mean, we get the idea because of that. That like he's changed for the better, right? The machine only could have been operated by this like despicable person, but now he can't operate it, so he's a better person. But also, you have to think of like the pain inflicted on Kazran, because none of this, in the initial timeline, like he never went through any of this.
yeah, you didn't have to go through the pain of like realizing that he couldn't take Abigail out of the thing anymore, like falling in love with someone that he can't actually be with. And all of this, going to that Christmas party with Abigail and her family. Like, he never did all this in the original timeline. And
Right, we skipped the entire part where we briefly mentioned it, where they go and visit Abigail's family.
And it's just like, the story could have raised these really interesting questions about, like, is it okay for the doctor to just go and, like, change someone's entire personal timeline for his own benefit? Like, that's, like, actually, it's one of those, like, do the ends justify the means questions? Because that's, like, a really manipulative thing for the doctor to do.
Right, and I can see why they didn't go down that route for a Christmas episode, but this might be an idea that would be interesting to bring back, almost maybe in sort of a kind of like how they did it in the arc, where like the first half of the story is this one thing, and then you see the ramifications of that afterwards.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of when Russell T was initially conceiving Rose, like, when he conceived Rose as like this companion that the doctor had like meddled in her timeline to make her the perfect companion, and she would find that out, and it'd be this whole big reveal, and this she would really question like the doctor's moral character for doing that. This story kind of really reminds me of that, as the doctor meddling in Kazran's life to make him agree to save these people. Like, it's like kind of a mean thing to do.
Right, and I mean you can they justify it in the story, and I use that word justify not to like point a finger at it, but like it is somewhat justified, I think, where he's like, Kazran doesn't slap the child of Abigail's
sister's
sister.
family.
Yeah.
Basically, he doesn't slap Abigail's nephew.
Yeah. And because of that, the doctor, he sees like this
Goodness?
good, he sees this good in him that he knows is like there and he can bring out by meddling through time.
But still, the
Right.
meddling in time is still like...
Right.
But I mean, also, like you said, this is a conception of time travel Doctor Who's never really done, because Kazran remembers all the changes that happen. He knows that he's got new memories, that this isn't the way that things originally happened.
Right. And not only knows, but like we see him in this story, like getting these new memories, and he's like, wait, this is totally at odds with what my previous life. And he knows they're new as well. He knows,
Right.
Yeah.
Because he says that's not how it happened, and then he turns and he's like, but it is. Like realizing
Right.
that if things have changed, time can change. Like Amy has a line, time can be rewritten, which is at odds with,
Yeah.
the first option. Not one line. You can't rewrite time, not one line.
Yeah, but I guess if this story had done the time travel aspect as Doctor Who normally does, like it just wouldn't have happened. Right?
Yeah.
Like the entire story just wouldn't have happened because Kazran would already be this changed person.
Yep. The time can be rewritten line will come back in the season finale, so keep that in mind. That's really the only like foreshadowing I actually see. I know you mentioned that there's some foreshadowing in this episode. That's really the only one that I see.
Huh.
The real big one. And Abigail's song mentioning silence like 5 times over, but whatever. And, that's all I really wanted to say on this. It was like kind of an inconsequential episode, kind of fun. Not great, though.
Yeah, I think maybe I wasn't expecting the inconsequentialness of it. Because I think it is the most inconsequential Christmas episode so far.
Definitely, I think. I think there were fun moments, though, in it.
Yeah, there were definitely things I liked about it. I just had a hard time getting invested in Kazran and Abigail, I guess.
I mean, I got pretty invested in Kazran's story. I didn't care so much about Abigail. Or really the ship, actually.
Well, I mean, Abigail is more just,
Kazran
I hate to
was,
say it, but like an accessory to Kazran, right? A reason for Kazran to have this dilemma.
Kazran was by far the most interesting character in this story, I think. And, yeah, I don't have anything else to say on this, actually.
Yeah, I think that's it from me.
Well, no real emails this week to respond to. But if you would like to email us, you can reach us at thedoctor@decorativevegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters, your thoughts on Kazran and the start of Series 6. You can find us on YouTube at Decorative Vegetable. You can find us on Apple Podcasts and Google Play at Trust Your Doctor. Be sure to leave a rating if you like the show.
Us on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor, like us on Facebook. Also check us out on Twitter at TYD Podcast and follow us on Twitter. And next time we're watching The Impossible Astronaut and Day of the Moon. But until then, the end.